Greetings viewers. Today I've got a video for you of a 1/18 scale resin model. It's by a company that's no longer around called Apex Replicas, and it's a Ford Performance Vehicle or FPV GTF, and it's a New South Wales Police Force highway patrol vehicle. And this is the Certificate of Authenticity, or COA as they're also called. That's actually a pretty good number, number 20 out of a reasonably high number of models made, 906, but these are reasonably well sought after models now because police vehicles are really popular. I'd never bought a 1/8 model of a police car before I bought this one. The reason I bought this particular police car because it's pretty special, because it's a GTF, and the GTF is the final GT that was built by, well, Ford Performance Vehicles, but it goes back to a history of Ford Falcon GTs that began in 1967 with the XR model. Not only was this particular GT a special vehicle because it did look similar in a lot of ways to a highway patrol Ford XR6 Turbo. If you were to look at one from the side, the police livery was very similar, and this type of blue and white checkered striping plus the New South Wales Police's emblem on the side, that's similar to what the police are still using to this day on their police vehicles, but now they're a BMW that the police use as highway patrol cars. And I think at the back they got the checkers as well. It got the special personalised number plate of HWP GTF. The standard FPV GTF put out 351 kilowatts on boost, I think. Oh. The standard FPV GTF put out 351 kilowatts from its 5-litre supercharged Ford V8. I believe the motor's called a Miami V8. This particular police vehicle was tuned by Herrod Automotive and Dick Johnson Racing. When this model's on display, it's amongst my Dick Johnson and Dick Johnson Racing vehicles because, well, it's got the Dick Johnson Racing badging on parts of the vehicle. The reason for the 351 kilowatt badging is to give it a link back to the GT Falcons of 1969 through till 1976. They all ran 351 cubic inch motors, or 5.8 litre motors as they were later designated because we'd been metric for a number of years, so they updated to reflect those times. The power output of this particular GTF isn't 351 kilowatts, it's 600 kilowatts, or 800 horsepower in the old money. So this New South Wales Highway Patrol GTF has more power than a V8 supercar that races on the Australian racetracks, because they've got around 650 horsepower, and this particular one's got 800 horsepower. So it's quite the weapon. Originally, or a couple of years prior to the police getting this particular GTF, they had a GTR spec which they bought for their 150th anniversary, and that was a fairly special vehicle as well because it was a GT once again, rather than a XR6 Turbo, which the police normally ran from Ford. I've shown a 143 scale model before of another GTF I have. This was another one linked to Dick Johnson Racing and Herrod Automotive. This one was driven by John Bow on a highway in the Northern Territory. And it was aiming for 300 kilometres an hour, and they fell just short with 297 kilometres an hour. I have shown this Trax model in a previous video. It's also a Resin scale model. Inside it's got, you know, a typical FPV GTF interior. You probably won't be able to see it too well because it's a sealed model. But amongst the regular features of a GTF Falcon, this particular car is a fully spec police car, so it's got all the police radios, computers, radar equipment, police lights, because it is a a functioning police car, and that's to this day. It's still used to go to car shows and regional shows, agricultural shows, and the like, to promote road safety with a vehicle with 800 horsepower. And they take it to various events. I've seen this vehicle at the Sydney All-Ford Day out at Sydney Motorsport Park, I think 2 years ago that was. On display with the FPV Owners Club. Certainly stood out amongst the others with its police livery. This vehicle is quite unusual in the fact that it's a 2014 model vehicle. So it's now 11 years old. And normally with police vehicles, they're kept on the road for about 80 or 90,000 kilometres, which they might cover depending on the type of driving they're doing in around 2 years. So it's quite pleasing to see it's still a fully functioning police car, because Ford Australia stopped the manufacture of its Australian vehicles here in Australia back in 2016, so just a couple of years after this one was made. Apex, I first bought one of their models with a Dick Johnson racing car, and it was a 143 scale car, and I was very impressed with the level of detail with that vehicle. The only things that really detract from this model is the type of plastic they've used for the window glass, because it's a little bit thinner than the usual glass that most of your 118 die-casts get. But otherwise it's a really nice model. There are some aerials that have to be placed on this car as well, but they're still in the box that this one came in. this concludes my video on the Apex Replicas 118 scale resin model of the New South Wales Police Force's Highway Patrol Vehicle 152. A Dick Johnson Racing tuned FPV GTF. Thanks for viewing the video. Goodbye.